Hey, buddy, you're getting a new game!
Ladies, gentlemen, and non-binaries. Before I begin this video, I would like to take some time to address a rumor that has been floating around the network. Some of you have come to believe that I like Megaman. I wish to dash these rumors. I do not like Megaman. I love Megaman.
Through my life, I have discovered so many forms of Megaman.
Super fighting robot beats bitter old man. Classic Megaman. Robots don't know what they're fighting for. Megaman X. It's lonely on the moon. Megaman Legends. The internet is dangerous. Megaman Battle Network. Racism and fascism are bad. Megaman Zero. Friends are good. Megaman Star Force. Playing Kamen Rider is fun. Megaman ZX. Capcom botches an anniversary. Megaman X-Over. Robot's former handler robot is a Kickstarter project. Mighty number 9.
Okay, why did I even put that there?
Okay, the point is, Mega Man has been the one series I've always stuck with ever since I was introduced to it as a kid. It just has so much to it that I appreciate. The classic series in particular prides itself on its simple gameplay, tight level design, awesome boss fights, a soundtrack that's flypaper for the ears, and an arsenal of weapons that's just plain crazy. But this is a show about arcade games after all. I'm getting off track. Or am I? As it turns out, Mega Man did in fact have an arcade game. Mega Man The Power Battle was introduced in 1995, about a half year after the release of Mega Man 7. This game utilized Capcom's CPS-2 arcade board, which was first used in Super Street Fighter II in 1993, and lasted until 2003's Hyper Street Fighter II, outliving the entire lifespan of the CPS-3. The game also got a home release as part of the Mega Man Anniversary Collection in 2004. Now, the Power Battle is a spin-off, but how well did it adapt the classic formula to arcades? After all, there have been fully fledged platformers in the past, but there are some things about classic Mega Man that might not have worked in arcades, or at least have been worth the effort to translate. So let's dive in and take a closer look on what they did. So, after you pop a quarter in the machine and slap the start button, you get a character select screen with Mega Man 7 sprites. You've got your Mega Man, you've got your Proto Man, and you've got your base. They have aesthetic differences, but they basically play the same way. By the way, this is for 1 or 2 players, which means co-op! You also select one of 3 courses, featuring robots from 1 and 2, 3 through 6, and 7. The first course features Cut Man, Guts Man, Ice Man, Crash Man, Heat Man, and Wood Man. The second course features Magnet Man, Gemini Man, Dust Man, Gyro Man, Napalm Man, and Plant Man. And the third and final course consists of Freeze Man, Junk Man, Cloud Man, Slash Man, Shade Man, and Turbo Man. Once you pick your course, you go to the stage select, where you choose your opponent by roulette. Yeah, you can stop it with a button press, but since you can't even see which Robot Master mans which stage, you don't know who you'll be facing unless you've memorized the placement. After the obligatory Robot Master introduction screen, you see the main focus of the Power Battle. They did away with all that pesky stage design crap and cut right to the battles with the Robot Masters. In that respect, Power Battle feels a bit more like a fighting game than a traditional Mega Man game. Now the controls are simple enough as always. Jump, shoot, and weapon select. What stands out here is how the Robot Master fights are handled. For the most part, they have all their old attacks as expected, but the older bots also have some new attacks as well, such as a shoulder charge for Guts Man, a 4-magnet salvo for Magnet Man, and giving Plant Man the ability to plant pesky sprouts, for example. I also like how the older Robot Masters got new sprites to match 7's art style. The new sprites look really clean. I guess it's more cost-efficient to make upgrades than entirely new bots. I mean, even evil geniuses have to deal with budget constraints. Wily even admitted it once during a Twitter takeover. I'm also impressed by the backgrounds here. As far as sound is concerned, the sound effects are on point and most of the remixes are good, but there are a couple of less impressive ones. I like the remix of Mega Man 7's intro stage, for instance, but Gemini Man's remix doesn't quite do it for me. The format of the game itself is mostly consistent with the classic series. You whittle down the boss's health, take their weapon, and move on to the next spot. Rinse, repeat, dry, fluff pulled, and put in the drawer. Just like usual, each of the robots in the course has a weakness to the weapon of one of the others. In this game, though, I hope you don't have anything like epilepsy, because a hit with a weakness weapon is indicated by a screen flash. Also, you have to deal with the fact that, as I stated before, you don't see the robots on the stage select, which means unless you've memorized which robot is in which stage, well, good luck following the cycle. Oddly, the health meter isn't the traditional 28 ticks, instead having a wheel of 8 sections, which go from yellow to red to empty as you take damage. Also oddly, you only refill a full section of life after clearing each stage. Also, Gutsman's super arm actually summons a boulder for you to throw. An instant and clearly necessary improvement for including Gutsman in the first place. Once you defeat all 6 Robot Masters, you advance to Wily's Floating Castle. First, you face one of 2 mini-bosses. For the 1 and 2 and 3 through 6 course, you face off against the Yellow Devil, which is decidedly easier than his original form since you don't need to memorize a pattern. In the Mega Man 7 course, you start off your assault on the fortress by taking on the Pumpkin mini-boss from Shade Man stage. Only this time it doesn't matter which weak point you hit because, remember, no stages. Once you beat the mini-boss, it's time to fight Wily's machine in a 3-phase fight. What, you were expecting a boss rush? What exactly do you think you've been doing this entire time? Interesting thing about this fight is that the second phase depends on whether you hurt the top or bottom of the machine more in the first phase. Usually it's the top half that survives to round 2, but you can cause enough damage to the top in phase 1 for Wily to take the bottom half into the second phase. Either way, once you defeat phase 2, you've essentially won. But now Wily switches between 2 escape pods, and if you want the final time bonus, you have to drop the health bar one last time before he gets away. Not that you can stop him from getting away anyway, because, let's face it, we're talking about Wily here. Regardless, once you win the fight, you get your character's ending. Mega Man's ending hints at Light's motivation for creating X, Proto Man gets that Man of Mystery bit with the best official remix of his classic theme, and we see the beginning of Bass's rebellious streak as he officially breaks from Wily. And roll credits. Overall, the power battle translates the formula to the arcade surprisingly well. The typical stage design of the classic series wouldn't have worked well for arcades, especially given that the games themselves rely on password saving, and 7 benefited from levels that were more explorable, so condensing the game to boss battles was honestly a smart choice. The presentation is crisp, the controls are tight, and the gameplay is as fun as always. If I have to criticize the game on one thing beyond what I've already said, it's that the challenge is lowered to an extent, which is made especially noticeable if you're playing a home version or on an emulator. Overall though, the Power Battle manages to do justice to the gameplay of the classic series. And then they made a second one. Mega Man 2 The Power Fighters followed up Power Battle in 1996, preceding the release of Mega Man 8 by a few months. As such, it follows closely to the formula of the previous game. However, there were some important differences, nearly all of which worked out to the game's benefit. First off, we get an additional character in the form of Space Turbo Robocop, also known as Duo. Not only was this technically his debut, but it marks one of the only 3 playable appearances for this big guy. The others being an unlockable character in Battle and Chase, you know, that kart racer that no one remembers from the kart racing boom because everyone was busy with Mario Kart and Crash Team Racing, and this Rockman strategy game that only got released in Taiwan so it barely even counts. The second important change comes right after you pick your character. Instead of the courses being centered around groups of games, they focus on 3 different plot lines. Go after Wily, rescue Roll, or recover a set of stolen parts. And when I say plot lines, I put them in Dr. Evil air quotes because the plot is as minimalistic as the Atari 2600's art style. And what's this? There's an actual stage select this time? Meanwhile, the sets of Robot Masters were seemingly picked at random. If you choose to track down Wily, you face off with Bubble Man, Heat Man, Shadow Man, Gyro Man, Centaur Man, and Plant Man. If you elect to rescue Roll, you deal with Cut Man, Elec Man, Dive Man, Stone Man, Slash Man, and Shade Man. If your goal is to recover the parts, then Guts Man, Air Man, Quick Man, Gemini Man, Pharaoh Man, and Napalm Man will stand in your way. While the main format remains the same, there are some notable improvements. For starters, you can tell right away that the health bars look a lot better. They look decidedly more normal than the last game's color rig. The backgrounds are also sharper and better looking overall, but the biggest improvements are to the game's soundtrack. The remixes are definitely a step up from the previous game, and some were even used in the complete works versions of the classic games on the Japanese PS1. Of particular note is Pharaoh Man's theme, which is easily my favorite theme in the entire soundtrack. There are also a couple of changes in the gameplay department. For starters, as you fight the opposing Robo-Revenant, they'll occasionally drop items to refill your health and weapon energy, or simply give you points. In fact, every time you beat a boss, they'll explode into a mass of pickups, including the weapon. That not only means that you can't get distracted and let it vanish, but only one character can pick up the weapon in co-op. Next change, special moves! That's right, if you fully charge your Buster and hold up while releasing it, you perform a unique move to that character. This is actually the origin of the Mega Upper we've seen in Marvel and Smash Bros. Proto Man uses a short-range burst called the Proto Strike, Bass uses a Guile-inspired Crescent Kick, and Duo uses an attack called the Giant Knuckle to knock enemies into the air. In fact, Duo's Slide is actually a Giga Tackle that can damage enemies. Also during the fights, Eddie's delivery service is doing the rounds and might drop off a support item for you, which will summon a helper depending on your character. Mega Man and Bass will receive help from Rush and Treble respectively, who will charge at enemies when you fire a charge shot. Proto Man and Duo will receive a shield from Beat to protect them from damage. Trade-off is, you're stuck with your Buster while the supporter is in play. If you're doing a Buster-only run, that's no problem. As you defeat the Robot Masters, you'll eventually reach a brief story moment, and depending on your path, you'll either get a power-up for your special move, a longer weapon energy meter, or a super jump. Another thing to note is that some of the Robot Masters have completely different weapons. Stone Man's Power Stone now summons a giant stone hand to attack in front of you, which is honestly far more reliable than the spiraling rocks in 5. Centaur Man's screen-clearing flash is replaced with the Centaur Arrow, which fires in one of 3 angles, at random. And Pharaoh Man's weapon becomes the Pharaoh Wave, which fires both in front of and behind you. After you get each weapon, Dr. Light will give you a hint as to which Robot Master is weak to it, which is nice for speedruns and all, but kinda makes the already easy gameplay even easier, as does the fact that bosses are subject to hard knockdown. Of course, that last part goes both ways. This time, each path has its own Wily Stage boss before you face the Doctor. If you rescued Roll, you face the Yellow Devil and its brand new attacks. If you pursued Wily and ran into his Robo-Dummy, you square off with the Mad Grinder, that boss from the intro stage of Mega Man 7. If you retrieve the new parts, you have to deal with the Mech Dragon from Mega Man 2, without the dangers of bottomless pits. The only change to the Wily Machine fight this time between paths here is that he'll summon a different type of baddie. Otherwise, take down the Wily Machine, then once again, you gotta take down the capsule and the time limit to get the final bonus, then the endings. Mega Man's ending is basically his friends reaffirming that he's fighting for the right cause, Proto Man's ending reveals the side story point about the defect in his power core, and Duo's ending is basically an in-game ad for Mega Man 8. The most interesting ending of the bunch, however, is Bass's ending. Not only does it reveal how Wily managed to create Bass in the first place, but it reveals that Wily was Zero's creator, more than a year before Mega Man X4's release. Another interesting thing about the endings is that there are different endings if you're playing co-op, but they don't really reveal anything important. Of the two Mega Man arcade games, Power Fighters is decidedly the better Mega Man experience of the two. With the improved presentation and changes to the gameplay, it's a solid step up from Power Battle. That being said, if you're a fan of Mega Man, they're both definitely worth a play, whether on the Anniversary Collection or if you manage to find it in an arcade somewhere. There's also a double pack for Japanese PS2s and even on the region-free Neo Geo Pocket Color. Then again, I know very few people who even own one of those things, but details.
And now it's time for me to go back to digesting the information that keeps coming out about Mega Man X Dive and determining whether or not the game's worth checking out. I certainly hope they don't tie the chances of Mega Man X9 happening to this mobile game because, let's face it, hitting the series' future on a freaking mobile game is a pretty bad idea. I'm the Quarter Guy, and until next time, the arcade is closed.
A trailer is meant to make people want your game. Don't use amateurish transitions between parts of your trailer. Make sure the frame rate is 30 FPS minimum, preferably 60. Be careful to avoid showing glitches in your trailer. And if there is an announcer, for the love of Palutena, don't give them lines that make them sound like they're being tryhards. Next time Top 10 Worst Video Game Trailers. It's game time! Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and click that bell so that you know when I upload something. Also, feel free to check out my other stuff and consider supporting my Patreon for access to my Discord server and other cool perks. See you all next time!